Welcome into the final episode of Raiders franchise. We're in the year 2030, and this year we're in the Super Bowl against the Green Bay Packers. We would have had a follow-up season to the final season 3, but I made a mistake and I accidentally deleted the file. So I'll admit that was a mistake on me. We were supposed to have another episode, but since I deleted that file and I couldn't upload it, I decided let's just go ahead, jump in, see if we can win some Super Bowls with this team, and see what happens to each player that played a big role from either our Coach KJ Dynasty or in this Raiders franchise. As you can see, the first quarter comes to an end. It's 7-7. Let's see if Ray Hobbs and crew can manage to get a Super Bowl here. They're fighting against the Packers. It's tied up at 10 here as we head into halftime. So heading into the third quarter, it's anybody's ball game. We don't know what's going to end up happening here. Hopefully we can get a stop on the Packers as we take a 17-10 lead here entering the fourth quarter. This is very important for this team. We need a victory here today. You want to see Hobbs get his Super Bowl as we don't get any points there and the Packers score. Packers look like they're moving the ball pretty well there. No points yet. We're still moving the ball here. Maybe we can score with about 2 minutes left in this ball game. We're going to go ahead, jump in, and show the rest of this game off, though, and see if we can get our first victory with Ray Hobbs and crew here in the Super Bowl. So we're going to hit the 2-minute warning, and that's all that's left in this game. The Raiders are in perfect field position. They should be able to get some points on this drive. They're at about the 35-yard line as they're going to go to their ground game. Quantel Johnson's going to pick up a few yards there. He's been solid but unspectacular in this game. Right back to Quantel Johnson. It looks like they're lining up and settling for a long field goal with Daniel Carlson. I don't think I love this decision by Coach. I think that they should be a little bit more aggressive. But, hey, you can only do what you can do as they settle for that long field goal that is up and good. That's going to give them a 20-17 lead in this ball game. But the Packers still have 43 seconds to answer, and quarterback Desmond Ritter's going to check it down underneath. That was a terrible decision, man. Ritter looking to pass. He's a superstar now in this. He's going to take a deep shot, and they won over the top. The Packers might actually score and take the lead with 30 seconds left. What a play by Desmond Ridder. This could be possibly one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time. What a comeback late in this game. Now the Raiders going to try to answer as they have 25 seconds left to do so. Hobbs takes a shot. He found some space there. That's a player that wasn't on our team previously, as Hobbs is going to check it down. Terrible decision to Quantel Johnson. We lost 4 there. I don't know what he was doing. Hobbs getting a little more aggressive here, floating it, but that's out of bounds. He completely missed Josh McDaniels there. I don't know what he was thinking as we're down to basically our final tries here as we do get the first down, keeping this drive going here. We might have maybe 2 more plays in this game at most as Hobbs is standing in the pocket, and he takes a sack. You got to at least throw that away, man. What a terrible decision, and that's going to be your ball game. The Green Bay Packers and Desmond Ridder will end up knocking off the Raiders in the 2030 Super Bowl. So Ray Hobbs, Josh McDaniels, Quantel Johnson, Trayvon Moehrig, all these guys end up coming up short in their first try, along with Divine Diablo. Hopefully they can get back into the Super Bowl in this. It'd be devastating to see these guys have one shot and then blow it late. It was a bad play by our defense that ended up allowing that. We had Noah Annie-Bognam out there playing corner, along with Kewan Hawes. We had a ton of good players on this defense and a ton of guys that came over from our Coach KJ Dynasty as well. So I really hate to see us losing this. Congrats to Desmond Ridder and the Green Bay Packers. They hoist the Lombardi Trophy, and they're going to take that back home to Green Bay, Wisconsin, home of Vince Lombardi, and where that trophy originated at, as everybody says. So it's a disappointing defeat, but we're going to have hopefully more options and opportunities in this to be able to get back. If not, well, this could be very disappointing for this team. Taking a look at stats real quick, Ray Hobbs looked decent, so did Quantel Johnson. Rashad Shepard is a great player in this. He really did shine through. Noah Annie-Bognam had a good game, so did Evan Wilson. We had a sack by him. No interceptions or anything, though, and that kind of ends up hurting us. We're going to go ahead and take a look at retirements. And as you can see, we didn't have Max Crosby anymore. We ended up losing him because of salary cap. He went to the Steelers, and that's where he ended up finishing his career at. That was a big loss when he left our team. I wanted to show it off, but I also didn't want the last episode to be 50 minutes long, especially with us being so late in the cycle. You guys will be seeing this after the drop of Madden 25, so I didn't think there'd be a whole lot of interest for a big, long 50-minute video. If I'm wrong, tell me below. I want you guys to comment and leave likes if you would, and subscribe to the channel if you'd consider. As we're looking at Crosby's stats, he had a great career. He was fantastic for us, and he had a great run. Looking at Jacoby Myers, who also retired here, he had some decent stats once he left us. Once again, he was a salary cap casualty. We just couldn't afford to bring him back. He wasn't overly great for us, but he was good. Jumping ahead to 2031, looking at retirements, we didn't make it to the Super Bowl, so that's disappointing. We didn't get back the next year. We tried, but you can only do what you can do. As you can see, Dylan Parham retired here. So did Colton Miller off of our team. That's disappointing. We lost our starting left tackle, who was a stud for us. I wanted to get him a Super Bowl, but unfortunately, we just weren't able to do it. He ends up being just under the Hall of Fame requirement here. I guess way under the requirement. I was thinking he was a little bit closer. He was still 78 overall. He was a good player. He was very strong for us. He led our team, and I was hoping we'd have him for a few more years. He was still a decent overall, but it is what it is. He ends up retiring. We got to move on and find a new left tackle. Jumping ahead to 2032, we again did not make the Super Bowl. That's pretty disappointing, but all we can do is go ahead and check out retirements and see who's going to end up moving on here in this franchise. So far, I don't see anybody too crazy. Landon Dickerson, we had to move on from him. He was the salary cap dump. He ended up retiring. We lost Jedrick Wills and Daniel Carlson, our starting kicker, who was clutch for us, man. He was really, really good. He was somebody that we depended upon. He won us a lot of games. He made so many long kicks, it was ridiculous. We also had cornerback Nate Hobbs go ahead and retire, along with right guard Cesar Ruiz. That's a ton of players that had impacts on this team. Looking at Daniel Carlson, he didn't end up making the Hall of Fame, but he had a really good career. He retired at age 38, hitting so many clutch kicks. Like I said, man, he was awesome. He hit 96% of his kicks one year for us, man. And I think that if we'd have been able to keep playing this into the future, he probably would have been a Hall of Famer just because of his leg strength, man. He was awesome. I really enjoyed using him, and I think he was one of the better players that we, for some reason, just don't always give enough appreciation to kickers. So I just wanted to say it here. He was one of the better players in this franchise, and he was so consistent for us. Taking a look at Nate Hobbs, he ended up finishing his career in Green Bay, also going to Houston and Pittsburgh as well. He was another player that ultimately there came a point where we just couldn't afford to re-sign him, and we had Noah Annie-Bognam and Kewan Haas, so I wanted to make sure we kept him. Now we're jumping in. It's 31-all with 2:33 left in the 2033 Super Bowl. This is our opportunity to get Ray Hobbs, Josh McCollum, and the crew a victory. So at quarterback is QB Matt Hayes, who, if you remember from the Coach KJ Dynasty, he was the quarterback for the TCU Horned Frogs when he led them to a victory over Oklahoma State in the national title to give the Horned Frogs their first ever title. So let's see if he can accomplish the feat here and beat the Raiders. He already has a couple Super Bowl victories. He is one of the best quarterbacks in our league here. So we're pretty fearful for the fact that he's out here leading the Bears right now. They're moving the ball pretty well here. They're going to go underneath. They're up across midfield now. They're pretty much in field goal range, if you're asking me, in today's NFL. These kickers have some of the most insane legs. As he gets a first down, picks up a few more yards. They're down to the 41. Hayes steps up and takes the sack. Big play there. That's exactly what we needed. Evan Wilson coming in clutch once again for us. Hayes is going to check it down there, and this play goes nowhere. Kewan Haas makes the play, backing him up to a 3rd and 14 as we're get pressure in there, and that pass is going to fall incomplete. That is going to end this drive without Bears being able to get any points, and it looks like we're going to go ahead and just settle to head to overtime here as we're just handing the ball off, and it looks like, once again, that's what we do. Final play of the game. We don't bust off a big run or anything with Quantel Johnson. So heading to overtime, it looks like the Bears have had the ball a ton, and they've been fantastic. But so have the Raiders. We've been able to match them blow for blow. We are going to open up with the ball here, so let's see if we can get some points. We need a touchdown, ideally, because in the playoffs, you know, any team can answer, and it doesn't matter. They get a try again. So if we get a touchdown, that at least puts pressure on the Bears to need a touchdown. It doesn't look like Hobbs is handling the pressure too well here, though, as he goes down the field, and that time it works out well. That's a big completion. However, Rashad Shepard ends up shaking up. He's still with the team, and he's still a superstar player. As we go back to the ground game and give the ball to Quantel Johnson for a 4-yard gain, we're going to have to rely on Josh McCollum here to make some plays, or maybe even Michael Mayer, as that's Hobbs stepping up and running and sliding down. We're in field goal range. That's great position to be in here. At least we can get 3 now as Hobbs feeling some pressure on the move. Floats it to the end zone. That's swatted away. He was throwing that to Quantel Johnson. So back to the play action game. Hobbs sets his feet, fires, and that's nearly intercepted. He wanted to get the ball to Josh McCollum there. He just couldn't get it in. It's 3rd down and 10. They go underneath, and Mayer converts, keeping this drive alive. We need a touchdown here, man. That's the best way to go about this, as he's on the move, and Hobbs just checks it down underneath. That's a short gain there. Nothing too crazy. It's 2nd down and 3. Hobbs going to the end zone, and that was nearly picked. That could have been a disaster. On 3rd down, we are going to pass, though. We have an open receiver, and he drops it. What are you doing, man? We can't do that, as we're forced to settle for 3, and I don't remember who this kicker is. It's obviously not Daniel Carlson anymore, so he hit the kick, though. It doesn't matter. It's 34-31. As Hayes nearly gets picked, that would have sealed the game. Noah Annie-Bognam had a chance to walk off the Super Bowl with an interception. Hayes fires, and that's knocked out by Kewan Haas, another former Florida Gator great. So that's third down now and 10 for the Bears as Hayes steps up and gets the first down. He keeps this drive going. He's a great quarterback, man. He's a dual threat who can do it all. Hayes, again, stepping up in the pocket, taking off, getting the first down and pushing ahead up across midfield here. He's going to get the Bears in great field position as Hayes, again, firing. He has a completion. That's going to be another nice play there all the way down to the 28-yard line. Greenwood with the big play there. Hayes is showing why he's our top quarterback in the dynasty now, even surpassing Pat Mahomes, as that's a big play. It's 1st and goal now. We're in trouble against the Bears. We can't lose our second Super Bowl. Thankfully, that pass falls incomplete. However, Sandley West gets shaken up in the plays. We go back to the ground game, and they stuff them, man. It's 3rd and goal now. We need one more stop here against the Bears. Let's see what they do. Well, they're going to motion their running back out, and they're going to put it all on Matt Hayes. I don't blame them. That pass is knocked out, though. Great play here by our safety, number 38. That's going to force the Bears to settle for 3 and tie this ball game up. So that means the next score will win the ball game here in the Super Bowl as we go to Quantel Johnson to start off the drive. He pinballs ahead and picks up basically nothing here. 2nd and 8, back to Quantel Johnson, and again, he doesn't pick up much space, so it's 3rd down and 5 here for Ray Hobbs. He's going to have to pass and be our hero as he goes underneath, and it's again Michael Mayer making the clutch play. He's much older now, but we're glad we still have him being able to make these plays for us as we fire out there, and he misses Josh McCollum. He should have had him there as Hobbs again firing underneath. That's a completion to our old friend David Hester. That's going to bring up a 3rd and 7 now as Hobbs goes down the field. That's Michael Mayer once again coming in clutch and getting us a big first down there. We're getting close to going to double overtime. We just need to get the field goal range as we go to Quantel Johnson, and he probably does it right there. I know if we have Daniel Carlson, that's easily field goal range, but I don't know with this new kicker, so let's keep trying to get closer as we go to Quantel Johnson, pick up 3, make it just a little bit easier there. Right back to Johnson again, and he's going to push ahead, pick up 2 more. So that's 5 yards gained. 3rd down and 5. Hand it off to Quantel. Don't lose yards, buddy. He spins back, and he picked up a yard. I don't know how he managed to do that there, but that's going to bring up 4th and 4, and we're going to kick a game-winning 45-yard field goal to walk off as Super Bowl champions as we almost went to double overtime and get the first Super Bowl in franchise history. Not for the Raiders, but for us. Ray Hobbs, Noah Eni-Bognam, Quantel Johnson, Josh McCollum, David Hester. We have so many guys here that managed to get their first Super Bowl. I know center Isaac Baldwin's still here. Defensive tackle Evan Wilson's still a member of this team. We still have Kewan Haas. I think we still have Trayvon Merrig as well. I could be wrong on that one, but we have so many guys who finally get their Super Bowl that they deserved and they worked so hard for. I wish we could have done it with them, but truthfully, we just ran out of time. That's why this is coming out after the release of Madden 24, and I'm excited to get into Madden 25. I think it's going to be a fun franchise, and as I'm recording this, it's a Saturday, August 16th, and, you know, we're doing pretty well on the voting, but I'd like a few more ballots cast, so if you guys made it this far, can you cast a vote and see who our next franchise team's going to be? I've narrowed it down to 3 options. I think that I want to go NFC this time, and then I have it down to the Buccaneers, the Seahawks, and the Giants. I prefer to do the Bucs because they're my favorite team, but they also might be the easiest rebuild. Then you look at the Seahawks. They need a quarterback, but other than that, they do have some young stars on both offense and defense, so they could be kind of easy as well. Now, the New York Giants, they're the complete teardown and rebuild team. You've got to start over 100% with them guys. I think that they could be a really fun option, and, you know, you really get to mold the team. But let me know what you guys think below and go cast a vote on the channel. We're going to wait until post week 1 roster update to start that franchise, and then we're going to jump right into it. Now, this is kind of unique. Like last year, we ended up using guys from our Coach KJ Dynasty for the draft class. This year, we don't really have anybody that we can use. However, we're going to mold both of our series together once fake guys get to the draft classes. So season 1, there isn't going to be a lot of fake guys. And I know the Bull Sharks aren't going to have anybody go pro. However, the Shammies, our rival in Helen, Georgia, can. So I'm going to put Shammies into the draft class if there's anybody that makes a big impact that I want to put in there. Honestly, I'm thinking of holding off for like 2 years and then really allowing it from there. So that way we get a feel of who these players are, and then we're just going to use fake draft classes. I think it's the best way to go, and then, you know, from there we'll start incorporating people from our draft classes as fake guys come through. I just don't want to use real guys because I feel like it limits what you can do story-wise, and you can't really tell the story your own way. You end up having to be careful because you don't want to insult anybody, because these are real people that have real stories, real backgrounds, and real feelings, and, you know, so it's just hard to tell a story with them. So I prefer to keep it fake, go through with the fake guys, and, you know, from there we're going to do our best to get some of these guys in the draft class. I'm hoping to go further than 3 years with this next franchise. That's my plan. I think this year I have a better handle on how to make content and get it out consistently, especially right now where I'm a stay-at-home dad. It's a lot easier. It's not something I expected to do this time last year, but it's just the easiest way to do it. Childcare is very expensive in this world right now, and so for now, this is what I'm doing to help pass the time so I can get some more content out, and I know it'll be easier for me to make sure that we get many more seasons out of this franchise along with our dynasties, because we're on a time crunch for them now. I can't just free do them for 2 years, because there's going to be a new game out next year and everybody's going to lose interest if I try to keep them going. So I'm excited to get going, and I'm excited to jump into our next Super Bowl. I want to say this was a year or two later. I forgot, to be honest with you. We're right back in the Super Bowl, looking to defeat the Minnesota Vikings this time and try to make a lot of our guys 2-time Super Bowl champions. As you can see, Michael Mayer did end up retiring prior to this Super Bowl. He was really the only big loss of the guys though. So he ended up finishing his career with the Buffalo Bills following our Super Bowl victory. And now we're going to take down the Minnesota Vikings, hopefully, and get our second Super Bowl victory with this core of guys. And then from there, honestly, I hope that we can win like 3 or 4. I'd love to see Ray Hobbs become one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but you just don't know if he's going to be able to do that. That's a big ask, because we're going through the first quarter leading 7-0 at the end of it. Opening up the second quarter here, the Vikings do have the ball. They don't score, though, as this is kind of back and forth. We're tied at 7, and now it's going to be 14-7 as we head into halftime. So jumping through the third quarter now, you can see there's not a lot of scoring in this one. It's definitely a defensive struggle as we go in the fourth quarter leading 14-7. And it's 14-10 now with 5 minutes, 4 minutes. It's 17-10 as time runs out. That's going to be a second Super Bowl victory for your Las Vegas Raiders. Ray Hobbs is a 2-time Super Bowl champion. What a big moment for this team, man. Now we're going to go ahead and see Hobbs hoist up that trophy for the second time now, man. This is very exciting. I'm glad this team got 2 Super Bowls. Like I said, the first time, I wish I could have got one with them. But at the end of the day, I'm proud of them, man. This is big. We got 2 in our long-term sim. We had the right pieces in place. There's no questioning that. I just think, unfortunately, we didn't get enough time with this team. As you look, and you can see Jed Compton retired this offseason. And let's see if we had a lot of key retirements, actually. Evan Wilson and Isaac Baldwin both retired. That's some big losses for the Raiders. They're long-term pieces that have been very important to this team. And, it's quite disappointing to lose them. But at the end of the day, that's the point of this. We got to see who retires, how their career finishes out. And as we're scrolling through, there's been a few more people that also made impacts in here. Guys from our dynasty, like Micah Reed, who ended up retiring here. Joe Burrow retired. That's a big offseason loss, even though he hasn't been with the Bengals for a few years now. And Caleb Kirbyson, our former center for Florida, retired. As you can see, Jed Compton didn't end up being a Hall of Famer. I thought he had the talent to. He might have been a reach. He retired a little bit early at age 34, though, for the Houston Texans. He's somebody that I thought was going to finish with the Raiders. Unfortunately, he was one of them players that we lost due to budgetary constraints. So he ended up having to finish his career elsewhere. And, he was a good player, but honestly, it looks like he was worse once he left us. So we might have come out in the better side of that deal in the long haul. Isaac Baldwin had about the same career as he did. If you look at his legacy score there. And he was a good player. He struggled a lot early in his career, man. He was a second round pick in that same class as Jed Compton. He was somebody that I kind of regretted taking at the time of ending this filming. He started to improve his final year, the second year of his career, but we had so many injuries with him. I was just concerned that was going to hurt him for the long haul. Evan Wilson, somebody that ended up being just shy of the Hall of Fame. I'd have loved to see him come back and play till age 35. I think he probably would have got himself into the Hall of Fame had he done that. He ended up having a really nice career. He was a great selection at the end of the second round. I don't regret that pick at all. He was the right choice, and he was the guy we needed. I really wanted it to be DeMar Cox, but unfortunately, Evan Wilson was just a better player with 2 Pro Bowls and, a Defensive Rookie of the Year. Jumping ahead now, Jack Garola retires the next offseason, our former Florida Gator quarterback. That one sucks. And you can also see DeMar Cox officially retires from the NFL as well. That's a disappointing one. I really liked both of them players. We also lost Rashad Johnson from our Florida Gators. He ended up retiring this offseason. We're starting to get through the end of this. As you can see, there's just going to be a bunch of guys retiring. I don't know if we're going to get another Super Bowl with Ray Hobbs, but I certainly hope we do somehow, because I definitely want him to be a Hall of Famer. He's the type of player that I would love to see make the NFL Hall of Fame. You can also see Jacob Reese, our former Florida Gator defensive tackle, also retired this offseason. Sorry if you hear my daughter in the background there. We're going to go ahead and take a look at Rashard Johnson's finals career stats, basically. He ended up retiring a little early. If he'd have returned, he'd have made it to the Hall of Fame, man. He definitely should have. He was only 34. He could have played 2 more years, easily been a Hall of Famer. He had a very good career for the Jaguars. We knew he was going to be a good player, man. He was one of them guys for the Gators that we could just tell he was different when we brought him in. Going ahead, taking a look at Jacob Reese, the defensive tackle of the Florida Gators. He had one breakout year, then he went pro, and luckily he did, or else he never would have made the series to begin with. He ended up having a very solid career. He did bounce around a little bit at the end, but he played a majority of his seasons with the Titans, and he just had a good career as a first-round pick. Not a Hall of Famer, though, but a good player. DeMar Cox is somebody, not a Hall of Famer. He ended up playing until he was 36. He was a good player. He just wasn't a great player. He left us and went to the Saints. It wasn't by our choice. He was somebody that we did offer money to. He turned us down and decided to leave. So I was kind of mad when that happened, and I really wanted him to finish his career. He ended up with 2 Pro Bowl appearances. He was a solid player, just not a great player. Our quarterback from the Gators, though, Jack Garola, retires at age 5, I think that says, maybe 36. His stats diminished quite a bit, but honestly, he ended up being a bust. He was kind of like an up and down, mostly a backup. It kind of reminded me of Ryan Fitzpatrick, and you don't want that in the first round. So that definitely wasn't a good pick. And, at the end of the day, his turnovers in college ultimately, I think, doomed him in the NFL, and he just couldn't develop into a great player. So that's kind of disappointing. He was somebody that I liked. But honestly, I wish I could have gotten Dana Garcia into the franchise here because he was somebody that won us a title. But at the end of the day, we couldn't do it. Keywan Hawes, Josh McCollum, Quantel Johnson, Sandley West, and David Hester all retired this offseason. That's a big loss. We're down to basically just Ray Hobbs left in the dynasty now. That's what's going to happen, though, as we get older here. Unfortunately, I think we had a Hall of Famer in Josh McCollum. I don't know. I think he was a really good player. Sam Freeman also retired, our tight end from the Florida Gators. He was a mid-round pick, ended up having a long career in the NFL, so that was a solid pick by the Texans, I believe it was, who drafted him, and that was somebody that we surprisingly developed. But let's go ahead and take a look at the career stats of Quantel Johnson. 1,130 points. He is going to be a Hall of Famer. He retires at age 35, and he was fantastic. The final 4 years of his career were a little bit of a letdown, but before that, he had over 1,000 yards, very consistently. He had a couple lulls in there, but he was just a good player. Glad he was able to make it to the Hall of Fame with a couple of Pro Bowls and a best running back. Taking a look at Josh McCollum, 24,000 points there. He's a Hall of Famer easily. He retires at age 36. He dropped a normal dev, but that dude did not drop off at all. 14 touchdowns, 97 receptions, and 1,100, almost 1,200 yards in his final season in the NFL. He was a beast throughout this, and I knew he was going to be. He was so good in college, and there was a generational player in that draft class, so I didn't even have to adjust the quarterback there. It just naturally happened, and let's just say I'm glad we had that because he was such a great player. David Hester ended up having a long career. He played for us multiple times. He sucked, and I'll be honest with you, at the end, I just wanted to see how his career finished, so I brought him back. He was an okay player. I didn't expect him to be great. He had a couple Pro Bowl appearances, though, which shocked the living heck out of me. I think one of them was with us, and he had the best receiver, I think, with us as well. Sandley West was somebody that I also brought back late in their career once they hit free agency, just because, I didn't want him to just disappear like what happened to Stuart McCaffrey. I never was able to see his career stats because he just disappeared. I didn't see him hit free agency, and unfortunately, there was nothing I could do about that. But let's go ahead and take a look at the next one, and that's Keywan Hawes, 6'3" beast at corner that we also got in that same draft class as Josh McCollum and Ray Hobbs. He ended up having a great career. Really good player, not a ton of interceptions, but you kind of expect that from a top corner. He only got one Pro Bowl appearance, which is disappointing because the game does rely upon stats quite a bit in order to really show that off. And here's where we're going to start coming to our conclusion. We're going to go ahead and look back at history now. Noah Enibagnam and Ray Hobbs retired along with J.J. White. So we're going to look at these 3 players, and then we're going to look at the history of the franchise, and then we're going to get you out of here. Noah Enibagnam ended up having a good career for the Raiders. He dropped off quite a bit at the very, very end, but he was still 70. He dipped, though, as later on there once he retired. He was a good player, though. Really good career. Ton of TFLs, some interceptions. He had a Pro Bowl appearance. I'm glad we drafted him. Good career. And as you can see, Ray Hobbs finished as the 3rd best quarterback in our franchise history. And that's how he finished his NFL career. 39 touchdowns, 12 picks. What a good player, man. He was awesome. He was everything I hoped he would be. 2-time Super Bowl champion. And I think he might have won one MVP in his career. He didn't rush for as many yards as I thought he would, but honestly, when you're that good of a passer, you don't need to. We were able to develop him, and he kind of retired even early. He probably could have played a little bit longer and had better stats. Next up, though, we're going to take a look at JJ White, possibly the best player in the entire dynasty. He is so dang good, man. He ended up with, I think, the highest score of everybody in the dynasty when he retired. He was such a beast throughout his career. He had 40,000 legacy points. He was awesome. Let's go ahead and show off some career stats just to see where Ray Hobbs finished up. And as you can see, he finished up in the top 10 along with Matt Hayes, another player from the Coach KJ Dynasty, passing touchdowns. Ray Hobbs finishes once again like number 5. Hayes finishes number 6. Now, I believe Hayes came back for one more year, so he might up his stats a little bit, but I'm not sure on that one. No rushing players at the top, except for real life guys in there, but I'm not as worried about them. Quantel Johnson finished with 135 touchdowns. That's top 10. Taking a look at receptions, there's Josh McCollum for catches in a career. There's Josh McCollum again in number 5, I believe it is, for most career yards. That's awesome. Looking at receiving touchdowns, this one has McCollum as well. He ended up a little bit lower, like number 8 on this list, but he was such a good player. Looking at sacks, JJ White finished second of all time, man. He was such a good player, and I knew he was going to be fantastic. There was never going to be a question that he was going to be a good player. I'm surprised he didn't catch Micah Parsons, but then again, Micah Parsons played for the Cowboys, so what do you really expect there? Unfortunately, that's just kind of how things go. And as you can see, they lost to the Vikings. We had the Colts win 2 in a row. The Patriots won a Super Bowl. We beat them. The Patriots won another one. The Patriots won again. We won. The Bears won. Like you can see, we go back through this. There was 2 years that Ray Hobbs ended up winning the NFL MVP. He was somebody, man. I'm just sad that we didn't get to use him more, honestly. That's on me. I should have. I just didn't get this dynasty or franchise out consistently enough, with our daughter being born. We ran into a lot of issues with it. And at the end of the day, I love doing this. And I'm hoping that our next one, which is looking like with our fan voting, is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which will start after week 1 rosters drop for the NFL. I definitely think I'm going to have to be more consistent because I want to go deeper into the future. I didn't do that well enough here. So we're going to figure that out. And we're going to make sure that our next batch of players get a full career, get at least like 5-6 years. That's my goal. Either way, I want to thank you for watching Raiders Franchise. I enjoyed this one. I hope you have a great day and you'll come back and join us for our new Madden 25 franchise. I'm LDJ11. Have a great day, and I'm out.